Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Till the Whistle Blows podcast. My name is Sam. Till the Whistle Blows podcast. My name is Sam. We've got a few things to touch today. Not really the most exciting episode this week. We are in kind of a lull right now. We're going from Super Bowl, from conference championships. We have the Pro Bowl coming up to then Super Bowl. So we have this kind of lull week to have some fun and talk about anything else around the league going on around the world. We get to check out some stuff. And I think we will start kicking it off in a little bit. Hello, everybody. If you're watching on YouTube, I just turned on the webcam. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anything else like that, we're ready to really get into some action here. And why don't we talk about NBA basketball to begin with? So the first thing I want to bring up is we're going to talk about the standings real quick, and then we'll go into like kind of some of the new stuff. The one thing I really wanted to bring up though was the Cavaliers beat the Nets twice now in a row, which I thought was really impressive on the Cavaliers. And like I said, we'll talk about more of them when we get into the standings. We're gonna get into those real quick. Why don't we talk about the Eastern Conference real quick? So right now it looks like the Philadelphia 76ers are leading the way with 12 wins. They're 12-6 on the year right now, and they're looking pretty solid. I know they had that one hiccup where they were down to only 7 players, so they did lose an easy one. But besides that, I mean, they've been rolling. They have a game against the Lakers coming up on the 27th. We record this on Tuesdays, as always, as a heads up. So that would be tomorrow. Today's the 26th, as of the recording. So they're going to be playing the Lakers on ESPN. So that's going to be a real challenge for them. I mean, coming off of they were on a 3-game win streak where they beat the Celtics twice, and then they beat the Pistons to then lose to the Pistons. That's kind of an interesting way to go. I mean, yes, the Pistons are still kind of a basement dweller of a team, but like a basketball season goes on all year. So like losing to like one bad team, it's not like in football where if a team loses to the Jaguars, that really kills everything. Like, no, like you lost to the Pistons once, all right, that's fine. I mean, you're playing back-to-back games. You're running back and forth a lot. You know, your body's taking some wear and tear here. But with that as well, they're rocking, they're rolling. I see Joel Embiid, he's averaging 27 points a game. That's always really good. Ben Simmons got 7 assists per game. And they're really just moving here in the early stages of the season. But again, we have so much season to play, so we can't really get in too much depth about anything really until we really hit like kind of after the All-Star break. That's when we really start hitting the stride in the NBA season. But with that, we also have the Celtics and the Bucks both tied. They're second and third here. They're both at 10-6 on the year. So that's kind of an interesting one. The Bucks, they traded basically everyone for Justin Holiday, and they're not even the top team right now. They still have Chris Middleton, that's good, but they lost a lot of their key pieces. Like, I never really talked about this trade before, but like they traded away a good portion of people to get Drew Holiday. So they have a starting five of Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Brooke Lopez. Like they lost the other Lopez, Robin. You lose Bledsoe, who's a good point guard. You have backing up Giannis as his brother Giannis, and you got Pat Connaughton and Bryn Forbes as your bench. I mean, this team is not really well rounded. Like again, as I mentioned last year, and I'm gonna bring up again now, this team can't. Like they're very one dimensional. Like this team really still has no shooters. There's no one that's really like shooting on this team. So it's like if you cover the lane, you're basically covering the Bucks. Like yeah, they're still first in the league because you still have because they're in the same division I believe as the Pistons. Yeah, they have the Pistons, they have the Bulls, and that's so many easy wins right there. I think that's 8 easy wins right there for them. So that's pretty lackluster here. Their next upcoming game for the Bucks is the Raptors, and that's kind of a lackluster game for them as well. I mean, the Raptors have been going downhill when they lost everyone. Now, why don't we touch with the Celtics real quick? The Celtics, they have really good chemistry. I'm actually, you know what, second place for them isn't too bad. They did go on a 3-game losing skid. I mean, they lost to the Knicks, they lost to the Sixers twice, but then they're starting to roll back. They beat the Cavs, they beat the Bulls, and they've got a game against the Spurs tomorrow, Wednesday night. So we're gonna see how that rolls. I mean, Tatum's really breaking out. He's busting out as a star. They still got Marcus Smart on this team. Sorry, trying to look up the depth chart. I mean, there's got some stuff. I know Kemba Walker, it looks like he's pretty hurt right now. He's day to day, so we'll see what happens with that. Now, following up them, we have the Indiana Pacers. Lost Oladipo a week ago. So I actually have not seen what they've done since the Oladipo trade. So why don't we take a look here? Let's see. It looks like they lost one and won one against the Raptors. They won against the Magic, lost against the Clippers and Mavericks. I mean, they're starting to falter a little bit, but they're just going to have to start heavily relying on Malcolm Brogdon. They're going to have to rely on DeMontis. Like, it's starting to come down on the other guys because Oladipo is definitely the guys. I mean, Sabonis is day-to-day, so he's still a little hurt, but they got Justin Holiday, McDermott, Miles Turner, and Brogdon, as their starting five. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see. They've got some work to do themselves. So they might be starting to falter here. When it comes later down the road, they're probably going to have some issues as we head into the, later seasons or later in the season. And then we have the Nets. They're 11-8. They've lost some weird games. Cary came back and they lost 2 straight to the Cavaliers. The team they gave up their center, Jarrett Allen, to. Like, I don't know how they do that, but after losing that, they come out and they beat the Heat twice. They've got a game against the Hawks on Wednesday night. We'll see how that rolls. Trae Young will probably give them some hard times, but they're starting to figure it out, I think, with Cary finally back on the court. But with that as well, as I mentioned, that they're still behind Philadelphia and Boston, and they should not be behind those two teams at the moment. But they will make their way because they were behind them before this trade happened. All right. We're not going to go into everyone's... We're probably going to pick and choose our teams now, but I wanted to do the top 5. But as we just mentioned, the Hawks team, they're 8-8 right now. They have Trae Young. They have Kevin Huerter. They're still a young team, but they're definitely on the rise here. Cavaliers, that is a team we need to stop in on for a second. Colin Sexton, that should be someone who's coming up big here. Like, all right, so they beat the Nets twice. They lost to the Celtics and Lakers. They got a game against the Pistons coming up on Wednesday. But with that, though, Colin Sexton, though, is really stepping up here and is making his name. So you got Andre Drummond, Larry Nance, Isaac Okoro, Colin Sexton, and Darius Garland. That is a nice, young, developing team right there. But Colin Sexton went off during this Nets game, if I can pull up his stats real quick. He put up 25 on this Nets. And he just carried him with 9 assists as well. Hold on, sorry, I'm pulling up his real stat line here. So in the 2 games, he did 38 minutes in the first one, got 5 and 5 for rebounds and assists, and put up 42. He put up 42 points in that first meeting. In the second meeting, which was that Friday on the 22nd, he went 9 assists and 25 points. Now, this kid is really stepping up now. Like, we talked about how Devin Booker stepped up. We're talking about how TJ Warren was like the bubble god. Colin Sexton is making his way. He's going to be the next big thing here for these Cavaliers. Yes, they lost the game to the Lakers. That's whatever. They're in the Eastern Conference. They could still probably make it to the playoffs here. They're probably not going to go far, but they'll still make it. Next, we have the New York Knicks. This is the last team that really would qualify for the playoffs right now. We'll see how they falter. They did just beat the Celtics, Magic, Warriors, but they also lost to the Kings and Trailblazers. Julius Randle has stepped up. He has found his rhythm. He's making his name known here. He knows what's going on. He is huge right now. He's coming up big for these Knicks teams here. But with that as well, though, they are still the Knicks. They'll still find a way to falter. Tom Thibodeau, he's a good coach and all, but he's not the greatest. All right. Now, let's find out the Eastern Conference here. We're not going to go in depth with everyone, but we have the Magic, we have the Raptors, the Bulls, the Hornets, the Heat, the Wizards, and the Pistons. So the Heat have been a big surprise here. They just lost a couple to the Nets. They are kind of in COVID protocol, but they have faltered a lot. So they lost to the Sixers a lot. They lost to the Pistons once. They beat the Pistons, then beat the Raptors, then are on now a 3-game losing skid here. So they're only 6-10 on the year. They are not the worst in their division. I mean, the worst would be the Wizards right now because they're in the Southeast. But that's just a little concerning for the team that just made it to the NBA Finals. They might have the most rust on them because they were relatively a young team when they did that. But with that as well, though, they do need to find their rhythm. And I think Jimmy Butler will get this team back to where they want to be. It's going to be an interesting outing for them, and we'll have to see what happens. All right, so that's going to do the Eastern Conference here. Let's take a look at the West. The number 1 seed, no shocker. We have the Lakers here. They're 14-4. I mean, They're riding high. They're on a 3-game win streak. They beat the Bucks, they beat the Bulls, they beat the Cavs, and then, like I said, they have the Sixers coming up. LeBron is the ageless wonder of basketball. He there's no stopping him. It seems like he's all in here. He's ready to roll. Him, Anthony Davis. They got younger everywhere too. Like they have the other Antetokounmpo and Kostas, but they have Anthony Davis. They got Marc Gasol, Katavius. Like if you compare last year's team to this year, you'll see that this year's team is actually better. They're younger. Like you lose Rondo, you lose Dwight, you lose JaVale, but you got Montrezl Harrell coming off the bench too. Like this team is just so much better. You got the Clippers falling behind at 13-4. You got the Jazz at 12-4. You got the Nuggets 10-7. The Trailblazers are sitting at 9-7, and the Grizzlies are 7-6. So why don't we go team by team here real quick? The Clippers, Kawhi, Paul George, they're doing what you think they'd be doing. Like they're riding high here. They've got what do they want? They're riding on a 7-game win streak here. So they're riding high right now. This is doing good, but unfortunately, Paul George is out due to coronavirus. So it's just going to be Leonard and George. So both of them are out due to COVID right now. So that's going to be a huge hit. They lost their dynamic duo here. So we're going to see what they do coming up because now they're going to be relying on Patrick Beverley, Luke Kennard, Marcus Morris Sr., Nicholas Batum, and Ibaka. Now, with that, though, that's still a decent team, but that's not number 2 in the West. This Jazz team, 12-4. That's a big shocker. So the Jazz will be playing the Knicks, actually. I'm recording this on Tuesday, so they're doing this Tuesday night. And the Jazz are big shock here. I mean, they still got everyone there. No one's really crazy hurt. Like, Derek Favors, that's great, day-to-day, whatever. But they're still rocking high. They're number 1 in their division. They're on top of Denver, Portland, OKC, and Minnesota. And they're riding high. They're running an 8-game win streak. Even better, they had 1 game postponed due to COVID, being the Wizards. So, but you got Mitchell rocking high and Mike Conley. So clearly the chemistry issue between Mitchell and Rudy Gobert is really not a thing anymore. They're still, one of these top teams in the West, but can they make it actually farther than they do? Because they lost pretty badly last year. Now, the team they lost to badly last year are the Nuggets. Now, this team, I thought they'd be taking the next step, but they're not really doing much here. They're on a 4-game win streak. They beat the Suns twice, the Mavericks, and the Thunder. Murray's not having a great outing. It looks like he got ejected last night or the other night for a groin shot to Tim Hardaway Jr. on the Mavericks. So something's not going right there. They're not doing so hot. I mean, everyone still seems to be fine, so nothing too crazy just yet to worry about. Trailblazers 9-7, the Grizzlies 7-6. The Grizzlies are basically the Ja Morant show. Suns, with their dynamic duo of point guards, are 8-7, and the Warriors are 9-8. Sitting there pretty. What is going on with the Warriors, though? We thought this would be the next step. Yes, they lost Clay. They did lose 2 games in a row, but they did just beat the Timberwolves. They have a game against the Timberwolves here on Wednesday. They should be able to make it. I mean, they got Wiggins, they got Curry still, they got James Wiseman, they got Draymond. They should be fine. Once they really start clicking again, they'll be fine. And then outside of the playoffs looking in, we have the Spurs at 9-8. We have the Mavericks at 8-9. Thunder at 7-9. Rockets 6-9. You get the Kings at 6-10. You get the Pelicans 5-10, and the Timberwolves 4-12. I really thought the big surprise here are the Pelicans. I thought they'd be much better than they are, but they really are just falling. They are just falling off. So due to both Spurs and Pelicans not having 8 players to play the game yesterday, they didn't play. But with that, I mean, Zion's averaging 23, and Lonzo's got some good assists here. But they're not finishing games clearly. Like, they're not doing what they can. Yeah, they beat the Timberwolves last, but they didn't beat the Timberwolves. They're on a 3-game losing streak right now. They only have 5 wins on the year. They beat the Kings, the Raptors, the Thunder, and the Spurs and the Raptors again. So they're not doing anything. They're falling off a cliff here. They're basically done. So again, the early season. So we're gonna see what happens here. It's crazy to see what's going on, but with that's kind of how the NBA standings looks like. Again, my big shocks are the Miami Heat in the East and the Pelicans in the West. I was not expecting them to kind of fall off like they did here. That's pretty crazy. Now, last week we talked about some hockey. We kind of grazed it, but why don't we get into it now? Let's really talk about this hockey standings. Now, the big thing with the hockey with hockey is you never know who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. It always changes. I feel like this is the one sport that's definitely the most well-rounded. But why don't we get started in the North Division here? We have the Canadiens. They played 6 games. They're at 10 points. We get the Maple Leafs. They've played 7 games. They're also at 10 points. Now, those are both Canada teams are going to be great. My commentary might be pretty bad at this, but we're going to go over the standings, I guess, and we'll just get ready for our football talk here. We got the Winnipeg Jets. They played 6 games. They have 6 points. They're 4-2 on the year. We got the Oilers. They played 7 games. They have 6 points. The Flames. They played 4 games. They have 5 points. The Canucks. They played 7 games. They have 4 points. And the Senators. They played 5 games and have 3 points. The Canucks actually did lose 5 out of their 7. The Senators lost 3. They tied once. That's not too bad. That's nothing crazy. Now, I want to move on to the West real quick. The Golden Knights, the team I have chosen to be a fan of, they've played 6 games. They've won 5. They have 10 points. The Minnesota Wild, they played 6, got 8 points. The Blues, they played 6 games. They have 7 points. The Avalanche they played 6, have 6. The Kings are 6 points as well with 6 games played. The Ducks have 6 games with 6 points. The Sharks are 6-6 here, and the Coyotes are 6-5. So again, I'm kind of just going over everything, but I'm going to be watching more hockey religiously. I do have the ESPN Plus now, and with football kind of wrapping up and basketball being easy to follow, I will be focusing all my attention to watching more hockey so I can give you a little better commentary on it. But with that, the Minnesota Wild are doing much better than they're doing with their basketball counterparts. Yes, they're coming off a loss to the Sharks, but they went 1-1 with the Sharks. They went 1-1 with the Ducks, and they just went 2-0 sweep against the Kings here. But they really are having a tough time with that Vegas, because Vegas went straight, ever since they came in the league, they built around. The reason why I like them is they built around building the future. They didn't build for the now. They picked pieces they could trade. They did a 2-game sweep against the Ducks. They went 3-1 against the Coyotes. They have a game against the Blues going on tonight, which is Tuesday, by the way. I'm sorry. Their leading goal scorer is Shea Theodore. They got Mark Stone with the most assists here. This Vegas Golden Knights team was built for future. Why don't we we'll go back a little bit. We'll backtrack to the North real quick. Why don't we talk about the Maple Leafs too? So the Maple Leafs, they beat the Canadiens. They went 1-1 with the Senators. They beat the Jets, went 1-1 with the Oilers. They played the Flames, and then they have a game against the Flames coming up. And it looks like Mitchell Marner, the center, he has been outstanding here. He's leading the team in points and goals and assists. So the Maple Leafs are going to be dangerous here coming later down the road. And Montreal here. So they played the Canucks. They went 2-1 against the Canucks. They swept the Oilers, and they beat the Maple Leafs. So actually, this team, it's going to be a race between these two teams for this North Division here. They are. Can you say balling out in hockey, or would it be pucking out? I don't know. But with that, they're definitely riding high here. These guys. Now, let's go to the Central Division here. The Lightning, they played 4 games. They've got 6 points. The Blue Jackets, they played 6 games, got 6 points. The Blackhawks, 6 games to 5 points. The Stars, they just started, so bear with them. But they had 2 games, and they have 4 points because they won both. The Panthers also just started, and they won 2 games, and they have 4 points with their wins. They beat the Blackhawks twice, and the reason why they didn't start because they were supposed to open with the Stars. And the Stars, who did they play? The Stars beat the Predators. So the Stars actually missed games against the Panthers and the Lightning. So they missed two series there. They missed 2 series because they're doing 2-game series with these guys. But so they're there. The Hurricanes, my roommate's team, they played 3 games. They have 4 points. They did lose 1. I think they were on COVID protocol too, so they've missed a few games. Yeah, the Predators they missed, and they missed the Panthers twice. So they have a game against the Lightning on the 28th coming up, and hopefully they'll be full swing and full healthy here. The Predators, they've played 5, they're 4 games, and the Red Wings are 6 and 4 points there. And then our last division before we head over to football with Mr. Cary, we'll be taking a breather. The eastern side of things, the Capitals, they've played 6 games, they've got 9 points. The Penguins, they've played 6 games, they've got 8 points. The Devils, they've played 5 games, they have 7 points. The Bruins played 5, they have 7. The Flyers have 6 games played to 7 points. Islanders have 5 games played to 6 points. The Sabres are 6 games to 5. The Rangers are 5 to 3. I know they just had the number 1 pick, the Rangers, so they're having a bit of an outing there. But when it comes to the Capitals, I mean, they beat the Sabres twice, they lost to the Penguins twice, and then they went 1-1 with the Sabres again with a game on the 26th, which is tonight when I'm recording, against the Islanders. So this team with Ovechkin, they're always going to be giving you something here, like TJ Oshie too. Like those two guys, that's going to be dangerous for them. The Islanders. So let's take a look at the Penguins real quick. They are on a 4-game win streak. They swept the Capitals, they swept the Rangers, and they have a game against the Bruins here. So that's gonna be that race right there between the Capitals and the Penguins. That's gonna be a really interesting one to see. We're gonna have to see what happens there. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna wait for our friend Cary to hop on, and we're gonna talk about what happened in the NFL Conference Champions and get ready for Pro Bowl and Super Bowl. All right, everybody, welcome back. We spent the first half of today's episode talking about the NBA and NHL standings. Before we get into anything else, though, we're joined by Mr. Cary Krongard. Cary, I bet you know what time it is.
It is. Is it time for my weekly basketball picks?
Weekly basketball picks. You went 2-4 last week, actually. The Mavericks beat the Pacers 112. The Lakers beat the Bucks. You had the Milwaukee Bucks winning. They won 113-106. The Bulls did beat the Hornets. You got that one correct, 123-110. And the Pelicans did lose to the Timberwolves 110-120.
I'll take 50%.
50%, not bad, right? All right, let's get your new picks here real quick. We have the Cavaliers playing the Pistons on the 27th.
You got to give me the city. Is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Detroit Pistons. They're going to be in Cleveland.
I will take. LeBron's not with Cleveland anymore.
No,
right?
he's actually in Lakerland.
Okay, I will take. I'll take Cleveland.
Cleveland, good choice. We have the Portland Trailblazers versus the Houston Rockets on the 28th.
I will take Houston.
Houston, all right. On the 29th, we have the Sacramento Kings taking on the Toronto Raptors.
I will take Sacramento.
And then for the last game on the 30th, we have the Memphis Grizzlies taking on the San Antonio Spurs.
I will take the Spurs.
All right, perfect. Let's get into football now, baby.
Let's
Championship weekend is now in the books. We have our Super Bowl decided. And why don't we talk about the NFC side first? The Buccaneers beat the Packers 31-26. The Packers have now lost, 4 or 5 straight NFC Championship games.
It's crazy. I mean, this was a really important game for them, for Aaron Rodgers to make a statement, and they come up short.
Again.
Really interesting. Really interesting game. A ton happened in this game. Just overall, I felt like I don't think the Packers ever had a lead in this game. I felt like
the Bucs had it all the way. They were without Antonio Brown, which I thought would make a difference, but it really didn't.
Yeah, I felt like the Packers never really played this game on their terms. I mean, they've never them not having a lead is really shocking. They've never been a great come from behind team with Aaron Rodgers, but especially this year where they've just, we've seen them get out. I mean, remember that Titans game Sunday night late in the season where Rodgers was pretty much done after throwing 25 passes. I mean, they've, the 3 losses they've had on the year, they had that close game versus the Colts, and then really that early Tampa Bay game was a chance they had to, mount a comeback, and Rodgers just totally crumbled in that game. So, they really didn't play the game on their terms, and that came back to bite them. I think one of the reasons you and I were more bullish on Mahomes and the Chiefs is that, they were a bit more battle-tested this year, a lot more successful in the 2 and the 4 minute drill than Aaron Rodgers really had to be. And I think the Bucs protected Tom Brady a lot better than the Packers protected Aaron Rodgers. I think that JPP has been phenomenal as a Giants fan. I have to.
You got to show props where props are due. Like he played great.
It hurts a little bit when you see him play so well. It makes you wonder why we got rid of him. I mean,
they thought they were missing out on fingers.
Yeah, and you got to give him credit. I mean, I think everyone else from that 2011 Super Bowl team is pretty much retired, and that he's still playing at a high level close to 10 years later is pretty phenomenal. But a lot of crazy things happened in this game. I mean, first you had Tom Brady's first touchdown to Mike Evans, I believe it was, and you had King on him at corner, and That was clearly not a good matchup. I don't think he was their best corner, and for
No,
some reason,
I'm shocked. I thought Jair Alexander was going to be playing Mike Evans for most of the game, but he really didn't.
it was really strange that they didn't put Alexander on Evans, and looking back, that certainly looked like a tactical mistake. And then before the half, you had a key sequence. First of all, you had Aaron Rodgers throw a pick on a pass interference that wasn't called, and that was a theme of the day. They really, up until the end at least, which we'll get to, they really let these receivers play physically, probably a bit too physically. And then you had Tom Brady throw a pick that was dropped because that's been the theme for him this offseason. He also had a bunch of drop picks for the Saints, and they convert on 4th and 1, and then they throw a touchdown at the end of the half, and it was really an unforgivable situation by the Packers defense where you just have Scotty Miller left one-on-one, and you
Yeah,
don't
he
have
was
any
wide
safety.
open, and that was bad. Didn't Brady had 3 interceptions on the day too, so he didn't have them all dropped. He had quite a few, and the Packers just couldn't really capitalize on anything that all those turnovers. Like they got him, but they didn't do anything with them.
Yeah, it was really the last two picks of Brady that the Packers not being able to make more out of really hurt them. They've been so efficient from the red zone in this season, and they really, that was the story in this one. They were kicking field goals in the red zone. They weren't able to score from the red zone. The play at the end of the half, it was shades of, as a Giants fan, once again, when we beat the Packers in the divisional round, the year they were 15-1 and Aaron Rodgers had that historical season. It was 13-10. It was going to be 13-10 Giants going into the half, and Eli Manning completed a Hail Mary to Hakeem Nickford before the half, and that made it 20-10 and really changed the momentum of that game because the Giants would go on to win 37-20. I
Mm-hmm.
felt a similar thing in this game, 14-10 tight game, and then the Packers are just unforgivably leave Scotty Miller wide open, and it becomes 21-10. And then the Packers get the ball, and I think it was Adams. One receiver catches a crossing route and he fumbles, and then the Bucks defense picks it up, another turnover, and then the Bucks go up 28-10. So similarly, that was a real turning point, and all of a sudden, it looks like the Bucks are going to run away from this thing, run away with this thing. Now, they do rally a bit here in the second half, and then the real story, of course. So first of all, huge mistake by them at halftime. I don't know,
That was just a big breakdown. Like they should not have done any.
situation
That was just bad.
situationally, it's unforgivable. I mean, you have to protect deep at the end of the half, and they
Oh,
just didn't.
absolutely. I mean, Greg Williams clearly showed why that was a good idea.
Yeah, right. So I mean, just unforgivable in a playoff game. And then the end of the game is so okay. Couple key things of note.
Are we going to talk about
28.
that pass interference?
Well, two things to talk about before then. First, I want to talk about the Packers cut the lead to 28-23, and Matt LaFleur goes for two. Now there's two LaFleurs now, so I almost said Mike LaFleur. Matt LaFleur
Matt
goes for.
LaFleur, yes, you had it right. But yeah, he goes for 2 in that situation. Although what is it? They were down by 8 at that time.
Well, it was 28-23, so they were down by 5. And then the justification for going for two is to cut it to a field goal game.
Yeah.
I At the time that happened, I said, quote, and I have the receipts to prove this. I said that I don't agree with going for two there because if you don't get it and the Bucks get a field goal, it is now an 8-point game. Sure enough, that's what happened. The Bucks get a field goal. It's 31-28, or sorry, 31-23, and then late in the game, Aaron Rodgers is driving. 3rd and goal is actually key here because it looks Aaron Rodgers escapes the pocket, and it looks like he may have room to run, and it looks like he probably should have run, but instead he tries to throw it across his body into the end zone. It's incomplete. That brings up 4th and goal, and Matt LaFleur actually chooses to kick a field goal here with 2 minutes and 8 seconds left, and I think he had all his timeouts, but still, really strange decision. Now, the reason, and I'm not defending it, but I will say the reason now he makes this decision is because he's down 8 because of the earlier 2-point conversion. So he's thinking, I can now cut it to a 5-point game, and if I get the ball back and score again, then I win it. Where now it's an 8-point game, and if I don't get the 2, I need 2 possessions. But that's just an example of compounding earlier mistakes. If he never goes for 2 earlier, he doesn't
He doesn't
have to
have to
feel the
make
need.
that up in later stages. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the only thing I'll
And
say
that
is like I get why he's doing it. Like he is playing one of the greatest quarterbacks in the playoffs. Like we kind of see why Tom Brady has his rings here. He knows what he's doing in the playoffs. Yes, he was out without a weapon, but he was able to make up for it with Scotty Miller. He had Mike Evans
Right.
still. So I get why he did it. I agree with you. It was a bad decision at the time still.
And then I think an even worse decision, despite the justification I just gave, was kicking the field goal there because at the end of the day, if first of all you're in the red zone and you kick the field goal, it's still a touchdown game. Even if you get the ball back, you still have to drive the field. You're not going to get a better chance to score 6 points than in the red zone. Second of all, there's just not enough time to hope to get the ball back. I mean, you're in the red zone and you got Aaron Rodgers and it's 2 minutes left in the championship game. It's do or die time. You have to go for it on fourth and goal there. And Aaron Rodgers said he actually called the play on third down. And if he had known that they weren't going to go on fourth down, he probably would have called a different play on third down. So I think that was just a really cowardly and really poor decision. I mean, if you go for two, if you don't get it, you don't get it. But you can't. Also, 8 points isn't necessarily a two-score game. That can still be a one-score game if you convert. So I think you have to go for it. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. But to play to hope to try to get the ball back with 2 minutes and 8 seconds left, I think is just it might have been the worst call of the season there. I think it rivals Mike Tomlin's fourth and one
Oh,
punt in
yeah,
the
that
Browns
fourth and one
game.
punt. Like I still think the fourth and one punt was bad, but I feel like this is like right behind it with these decisions. One of the things I want to mention to you though that you said we'd come back to that pass
Yeah.
interference call at the near the end of the game that kind of helped the Buccaneers win that game for them. Like, what do you think? Because I didn't think that was pass interference, to be honest with you.
So this is actually then what I was about to get into. This is what ends the game. They kick off. Bucks get one first down. Packers use their timeouts, and then or I'm actually not sure they didn't
I
show the
remember they
highlights.
used their timeouts, and that play was literally do or die at the moment.
Right. It was third down. Bucks get it. It's pretty much game. If not, the Packers get the ball back here. And so you get a flag for pass interference on a crossing route. Here's what I think. I think it was pass interference because he did grab the receiver, and I do think, although you could argue it was uncatchable, but I still don't agree with the call. And the reason I don't agree with the call is because the refs had not been calling pass interference all day. I mean, I mentioned the play earlier where Aaron Rodgers threw a pick before the half. There was clearly interference, and it wasn't called. So the most important thing for a ref is to be consistent. I've heard broadcasters say this before. I think actually Troy Aikman said this in a prior game that the players just want the refs to be consistent. If they're letting you play, that's fine. Just let you play the whole game. If they're calling it tight, they're calling it tight. But this was clearly a game where they were letting the guys play. They weren't calling it tight. So when you do that, defenders think, okay, I have a little more leeway now to grab the receiver. So to then turn around and call that, and not only call it in a crucial spot that ends the game. It's just another example of one of these playoff games being kind of tainted because of a ref.
By a ref call. So I actually just had the play kind of pulled up to get a quick watch. Yes, you were right. It's a crossing route. But the thing I'm going to say is like Jair Alexander was the guy on him. His hand was really just kind of on his shirt. It really didn't affect him. And the ball, there's no way he was going to stop and catch that from the angle. Like he threw it pretty well over his head. And if you're going to tell me that's a catchable ball, then I want to see him catch that ball then before we call that.
Yeah, I think you should.
It didn't look like he was.
Contact.
It did not look like it was catchable, and it just kind of felt like they just kind of gave it to him because he was able to play it.
I think there was contact, but I think you could certainly argue it was an uncatchable ball. I just think really the inconsistency there with the refs is
yes, I agree with
problem.
you. The inconsistency, like they weren't calling things like that to begin with, and then to decide to call it in the moment where you really can't make a call like that is kind of.
And I mean, Tom Brady's always gotten the calls, but it feels pretty egregious. This doesn't it feel like Tom Brady's gotten a call?
This one feels
game.
like they gifted him this one because I disagree with that call. I do not think it was pass interference.
And when you're when you're not calling it, it affects how the defenders play because if the defenders see they're not calling it, then they're going to grab a little more, right?
Yeah, they're going to be a little more aggressive if you're not going to call it, but then you call it randomly. That's not okay.
But I do so I think that was bad. But I also think the poor decision to kick the field goal and not leave his offense on the field goal was it's hard to say they deserve to win after that call just because with the biggest game, with the biggest stakes, and with a chance to tie the game in the red zone, you decide to give the ball back to Tampa. That just so it's hard to criticize them for that. But yeah, it's another out for Aaron Rodgers. But this is a bigger conversation, but I can't help but think about it. There's been so much discussion about Tom Brady and the greatest of all time, but if anything, this postseason has convinced me less of that and convinced me more that he just gets the breaks and gets the opponents and just I mean, if you look at his postseason, Sam, we talked about it. 1-score win over Taylor Heineke, Probably one of Breeze's worst games as a Saint. And now you have a bunch of uncalled pass interference and that bad Hail Mary call at the halftime and that horrible field goal call and the pass interference at the end. Tom Brady threw 3 picks in this game.
Yeah,
So if you're
this is a game they shouldn't have won, but they won due to a bad coaching decision with what you just mentioned, a bad ref
right,
call, which is what we were just talking about. So like they got him to his 10th Super Bowl, I think, just off of they just wanted him there at this point because I feel
right,
like, and he's playing the opponent that he should be playing. To be honest with you, as much as I wanted to
yeah,
see the other team, which we'll talk about in a second, like this,
yeah.
if this is like literally the game of passing the torch.
Absolutely, but I just and I could go through all Brady's postseasons. I won't now because we don't have
No,
the
let's just
time.
worry about this one right now.
But I just think that the story of his career is when you compare him with his peers, and by his peers I mean his equally Hall of Fame peers, Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, and Peyton Manning. He has 6 rings. Peyton has 2, and the other 2 just have 1. I don't think he's played demonstrably better than those guys in the postseason. I just think he gets the breaks and he has the better defenses, and I think we saw that this year. I mean, anyone who's if you took his name off the back of his jersey and you just said you just watched him and knew nothing about football and looked at player X in the postseason, you wouldn't think he played well this postseason. But the narrative's already been written. So
Well,
you know,
yeah, you have the narrative, but honestly, this defense is really good that it's carrying him.
yeah, I agree. I think the defense has had a total turnaround as the season's gone on. Like I said, I think JPP is a force to be reckoned with. I think they've gotten a ton of turnovers.
He stepped up.
But
Devin White stepped up, and Antoine Winfield is one of the
Devin
big
White
guys
had a
too.
great recovery, absolutely. But it's the same old story for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, on some level, Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's leaving, but he did make some comments to show his frustration, saying, everyone's future is in doubt, including mine. So I think it's just really frustrating for a team that again they got rid of Mike McCarthy and got what seemed to be a pretty big coach, but again 2 straight years now it's been a bad look in championship games. So it makes you wonder if not now will it ever happen again for our guy Aaron Rodgers, who no, I don't think he was MVP, but still had a really good season, and it didn't really feel like he deserved to go out like this, but that's what happened, and now I think it's worth mentioning that we're assuming he'll be the MVP. The MVP winner has not won a Super Bowl since Kurt Warner in 1999, and that streak continues. And for the Green Bay Packers, again, it was just an uncharacteristic day in the red zone, and a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad calls, a lot of bad coaching, and they just really were never able to play this game on their terms. And at home, Aaron Rodgers' first ever home NFC Championship game. It's another heartbreaking loss for them.
It was, yeah. I just looked it up too. I was wrong. He's lost 4 NFC Championship games. He actually was not back to back because it was the Rams Saints in one of them and Eagles Vikings between it. But with that, he's showing that he has not been able to make it to the big dance anymore. He could get
And
to
it's
this point, but he can't get over that hump.
And it's been a lot of heartbreakers, Sam. I mean, if you look at his playoff losses, we know they got steamrolled by the Falcons,
Yeah,
who were steamrolling everyone that year. I mean, everyone forgets about it because of the Super Bowl, but
the
that
Super
offense,
Bowl. They steamrolled the Seahawks. They steamrolled the Packers, and then they blew it in the Super Bowl. And that's all they can remember. But like they lost to 49ers last year, lost to the
blowout.
Giants,
Couple Kaepernick loss, couple
couple
Kaepernick.
Kaepernick losses.
Yeah, the Giants with
They've lost some
Favre.
bad ones.
Right, the Giants with Favre, that was a heartbreaker, and then the probably the biggest heartbreaker of all in 2014 is the Seattle Seahawks and
The
the and
onside recovery.
the onside kick recovery, and that comeback was, I think, a 16-point comeback. At least it was
Yeah.
something crazy. I mean, it was they come back to win it in a walk off in overtime. So
Well, how far
you
back do you
know,
want to go for their misery? Because in 2002, Michael Vick fucking torched them in the playoffs too.
right, that was even before my time. But you're right.
Yeah, that was 2002. Mike Vick went off.
Before my time watching football, I'm not.
No, I got you. I get
I
you're
just want
clearing
to
up.
clarify to viewers that you and I are the same age.
We're 25. Actually, I think you're older than me.
Right, I am older than you, but we're the same
Exactly.
grade. So it's just a lot, and we again, I think that's it. When I think about the narrative of these quarterbacks and Hall of Fame quarterbacks and who's the greatest of all time, I see a lot of postseason heartbreak for Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers, but I don't see it as them being any less skilled than Tom Brady. I see them having a lot of heartbreakers because of other factors of the game. So I think people need to start looking at this more holistically and stop just counting the rings and having the conversation
Do you
end
really
there.
think about it? But we'll get off of him now. So Let's talk about the AFC side now. Their opponents. Actually, before we do that, the Buccaneers are actually the first team in Super Bowl history to host. The host city is actually in the Super Bowl.
And we talk about all the breaks for Tom Brady. There's another one, right? I mean, I know
He's
they
playing
earned
at
almost,
home now.
yeah, but he's going to get a home field game for the Super Bowl, so it just seems fitting,
That's
doesn't it?
crazy. All right, let's talk about the real Super Bowl now. We had the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills on the AFC side of things.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes, he had a day. Tyreek Hill had 172 yards receiving, with Travis Kelce having 118 yards receiving. So, with that, the Chiefs did win 38-24. The Bills tried their hardest, but there's no stopping these guys. There was no stopping them.
Well, we've been saying all season, if the Chiefs could just find their A game, man, would they be unstoppable, because they've been playing their B and C game all year, and
They
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 found
they
it.
found their A game.
They found it this weekend, and man, I think a lot of people were picking the Bills. I think maybe partially because they wanted the Bills to win. I think a
A
lot of
lot of
people
people
are.
wanted to see the Bills to win. Like, that's that franchise. Like, oh, we feel bad for him, but like,
Right.
I'm looking at the box score here. It was 9-0 in the first quarter, and then the Chiefs put up 21 in the second quarter.
Oh, they can just score at will. I mean, you marry Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid, and it's just unfair. I mean,
Oh,
they're
easily.
just.
And it seems like we're going to be seeing this a lot too, because you know what? Eric Bieniemy's probably not going anywhere after the season. He's probably sticking here.
It's just a joy to watch. I mean, it's really fun to just watch these guys throw the football, because they're doing it in ways that are redefining the league, ways we've never seen before. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about these guys. Mahomes, Scott Kazmar, one of my guys on Twitter, I was going to post this, but I didn't, because I thought people would take issue with it. But he made a controversial statement that I think I agree with, that said, it's amazing that Patrick Mahomes, this early in his career, had a better 3 year stretch than Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers ever has had. And I think I agree with that, because he won the Super Bowl last year. And the postseason last year, they were down by 10 plus in every game and came back to win by 10 plus in every game. That's never happened. And then his first year, he threw for 50 touchdowns and lost to Tom Brady in overtime, and he never got to touch the ball in overtime. So you're now looking at two Super Bowl appearances, and the one and two what should be two MVP seasons. And the one season he didn't play at an MVP level, he won the Super Bowl. So it's just a phenomenal run. There's nothing lucky here. There's nothing the ball
Well, like
bouncing his way.
the Bills were definitely on top of him today, but just Patrick Mahomes he's so good with the football. Like, there's no stopping him. Unfortunately,
And
this
it's
was a
just
battle of strong arm
it's
QBs. Sorry, go ahead.
I lost you there, Sam.
I was saying, like, this was a battle between, the up and coming guy. Like, these guys are still
Yeah,
young. Like,
and
Josh Allen has definitely taken that huge step this year.
right, right. And it's I mean, for Mahomes, hold on, let me just pull up my box score for this game. I'm still in the NFC one.
Okay, I actually had it
But
pulled
it's
up with
just,
me.
I mean, it's a wet dream for Andy Reid. It's a wet dream for Andy Reid, because this is a guy who's always loved to throw the football. And with Mahomes, they just don't have to run it. I mean, they can just put it in his hands every play, and he can play whatever game you want. He can do the deep ball, but he can also just check it down and have the short, quick passing game replace the running game. I mean, his day, uh, 29 of 38 for 325, three touchdowns and no picks. I mean, it's pitch and catch for him. It's like playing Madden. It's just he makes it look so
Yeah, and we
goddamn
didn't need
easy
Chad Henne
as
today
as
either.
do
So
Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And God, I keep losing my train of thought.
if
Uh, what's it'll come back to me. But so these guys just roll through. Oh yeah, and the amazing thing too, Sam, is that like you think about all the star quarterbacks we've had playing in the playoffs and playing this weekend. We had Drew Brees eliminated earlier, but you had this championship weekend: Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes. And the only one of those, and it's hard to carry over success from the regular season to the playoffs because of all the factors we mentioned in the in the Aaron Rodgers game. Out of all those quarterbacks, the only quarterback to play like the star was Patrick Mahomes. And out of all, and I don't want to hear that he has all these weapons, because all those other guys have weapons too. And you know what? He makes these weapons. He's the guy. He's the one who makes these guys what they are. And it was just a show. Now for the Bills, I think they played as well as they could.
they did what they
They're getting
could.
a lot of
It
criticism
was
for.
upsetting to see. You really wanted
Yeah,
to see these guys
they're getting a
succeed.
lot of criticism. They're getting a lot of criticism for kicking so many field goals. I think part of that is fair, but there were a couple of drives where they had some really, really long drives. And I think if you go on a 9 or 10 minute drive, or you go on a drive before the half, I think you have to get points there. I mean, it's very demoralizing to go for it on fourth down and not get it and leave with no points. So I get some of those field goal decisions. I think 31-15, it's still a game for them technically, and Allen throws a pick that is off the hands of his receiver and bounces into the hands of a Chief, and then it becomes 38-15, and it's pretty much over from there. I turned it off, but actually it still was a game. The Bills score again, but they go for two a bit too early, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
they definitely
again
jumped the
that
gun on that
analytics
one.
argument. This is that analytical argument where they say, yeah, you go for two because if you don't get it, you know what you need, but you're also taking yourself out of the game too early. You kick the extra point, it's a 16-point game. It's still a two-score game. Crazy things can happen. You don't get it. It's now a 17-point game. They have to go for the onside kick, which they did actually recover. It was a great onside kick by Tyler Bass, but just too much for the Bills here. And Josh Allen, he struggled a bit, but again, I think he was under a lot of pressure in this game. I think the
Oh, he
Chiefs really
really
got
was.
after
Like
him in this
he was
game,
getting smothered by everyone.
and so I struggle putting it all on him. And the Bills had a good year, certainly a disappointing ending, but I think, Sam, this shows that, just like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady for all those years in the AFC, it's going to be, you want to get to the Super Bowl, you're going to have to go through
You're
the
gonna have
Chiefs
to get
for
to
the next
KC.
decade.
You're going through Kansas
And
City.
and if you look at the Bills, I mean, the Bills are a great testament to that. I mean, you look at the Bills season, and they had 3 losses. One of those was the Hail Mary. That was kind of a fluky loss. The other two
Kansas City and Tennessee.
were losses to the Chiefs. So, this is a hump they'll have to get over, and a hump anyone who wants to get to the Super Bowl will have to get over. And it's not an easy hump to get over, Sam.
No, hopefully they'll figure it out. So when it comes to the Chiefs, I wanted to bring up. I saw one meme today, earlier this morning, and I thought I'd bring it up for the Chiefs here. The Chiefs, we've only
Right.
been held under 20 points one time this year. Do you know that?
I mean, if you're a stat guy, there are so many stats for Patrick Mahomes that
No, but
are
seriously though,
just
think about that though. Only one game this year, the Chiefs have been held under 20 points.
no. They've been incredibly
That's
consistent,
crazy.
and they've been. I mean, Mahomes. You're basically an automatic. You
That's
have
an
to
easy
score.
20 points. If only one team can do that this year, I'm not going to humble brag which team it was, but still,
Yeah, you have. Well, you have to. I mean, you playing Mahomes, you need 30 points on the board if you want a chance. I mean,
easily,
we've said
easily,
it's just an
easily.
automatic. I mean, it's just automatic. It's just automatic at that point. So no letdown for the Chiefs. I mean, people have been waiting for them to let down, but and like you said, phenomenal Super Bowl matchup, old versus the new. I mean, Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady. I mean, it's that's the storyline there is they'll be writing about that for weeks because
Oh, of course, of course.
it's the old it's the old guard versus the new guard, and pretty excited. Again, wait, I think there may be other teams who would have wanted to get there, but hard to complain about this matchup
Yeah.
coming
All
up.
right. So with that, why don't we do our full Super Bowl analysis next week when we're kind of Super Bowl week? Because this week is Pro Bowl week, and I'm already done talking about that. That's all the news that was about. So why don't we talk about some real news that happened though?
Yeah.
So you mentioned last week that the Lions were interested in hiring Dan Campbell. They hired him. I know you had some thoughts about it. I actually didn't even realize they were looking at him, so I'll let you take the wheel on that one if you'd like to tell us about your Mr. Dan Campbell here.
Well, have you seen the clip of him? The clip of from his press conference?
No, I have not. Did he have bug eyes like
Well, he didn't have bug eyes, but I'm
ah
gonna pull it up because I think this will do more justice to Dan Campble than anything I personally can say, and I do have things to say, but this is both hilarious and not a great sign for the Lions in my opinion. But I'm pulling it up here on Twitter. Hopefully you can hear it, and here we go. We're gonna kick you in the teeth. Can you hear this?
yeah.
So this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth, all right? And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before
before long, we're going to be the last one standing. All right, that's going to be the mentality.
What are your do you have any?
It sounds like he's ready to roll. I like that confidence, man. It's not the
Oh
bug
man,
eyes of Adam Gase, but he is ready to go.
he's ready to go. So the history of Dan Campbell is he was interim coach for the Dolphins a for a couple games, and I don't I'm gonna look it up here because it was as coach interim head coach in 2015. I think it was after Joe Philbin got fired, but let me check on that.
He was
Um,
2010. Yeah, I think it was the Joe Philbin fire.
yeah. So and I remember, not a lot of people remember that much about the Dolphins back then, but I remember. I don't know what his position was before. I need to really stop closing these internet windows before I get all the information
Well,
I
actually,
need.
it looks like he was
Okay.
interim head coach twice. In 2010, he was Miami Dolphins interim head coach, and in 2015, he was the interim head coach for the Miami Dolphins.
2010s it says coaching intern, not interim.
No, it's in. Oh, sorry, that's the first one. All right, then yeah, 2015. Sorry, I read the 2010 and combined them. So yeah,
And
I
nothing.
think that was the Joe Philbin fire.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember the first game he took over. So they were running the Bill Lazor offense, which this was the time the Chip Kelly offense was hot, and Bill Lazor at that time was running kind of a Chip Kelly, very flashy speed. And he came in, and there was a lot of talk about physicality because that was sort of the kind of personality he was. And I remember the first game he came in, he got in the I formation, which they didn't do under Bill Lazor, and he ran the ball with Lamar Miller, and they had over 100 yards, I think close to 200 yards rushing, and everyone said, oh yeah, he's going to bring back physical football. Like this is our guy. And I don't think that lasted. I don't think they won any more games with him, and they went on to hire Adam Gase, and we all know how that turned out. But that's his history. I mean, he is one of these, stereotypical smash mouth physicality coaches. Um, the problem is I just don't know how far that gets you. I mean, it gives for fun press conferences, but everyone in the league knows that you have to be physical to win. And so are you a guy that can turn around a generations-long losing franchise by being physical? I mean, it's similar to what Matt Patricia said in his opening press conference, and even Joe Judge. A lot of people were making fun of him. Now he's done a good job, but the book is still out, and he is not quite as I don't know. When I see a guy that is, and it's very little to go on, but I when I see a guy that is that egregious with some
He's
of his
very aggressive, so we'll have to see what he does. One thing I'm noticing here is he was the assistant head coach, so he does have some Sean Payton in him, it seems like. So we're going to have to see how this head coaching hire goes. It's going to definitely be an uphill battle, especially since
my
they're looking to part ways with Matt Stafford.
yeah my gut instinct is that it's a questionable hire. That's my gut instinct,
Look, this is
honestly.
probably the second most questionable hire I think I've seen this year.
The first being Urban Meyer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, 6 year
When you
deal
even
for
brought up the heart conditions, that jumped it up. I was like, I didn't even know about those heart conditions, so
no
I don't know how this is
six
going to
year,
go.
but yeah, for Campbell, I mean, 6 year deal for a guy that whose plan to turn the franchise around is hit you in the kneecaps. I just
It's going
I
to be
don't.
a rough outing for him, but we're going to have to see what happens, and I guess we're going to have to give him benefit of the doubt at the moment, but the Lions are trying to part ways with Matt Stafford, too, so he's going to be trying this with probably a young quarterback.
He is, and it just makes you skeptical when people say Eric Bieniemy doesn't interview well, but then they go and hire a guy like that. It makes you scratch your head a little bit,
Like,
thinking
honestly,
maybe
I'd wait for Eric Bieniemy because you see what he does. He shouldn't really need a interview. Look, I get the Atlanta Falcons. They at least had a good backup option in
no,
Arthur Smith.
no, right.
But
But
with
if
the
you're
Lions and, like, we'll talk about the Texans, too, because they're having a questionable thing right now. And the Jaguars, like, you should have waited because, like, Urban Meyer, like, you guys are taking huge risk on these guys.
Yeah, and I think we also, there's been a rightfully so a conversation about ways to get more minority coaches in the NFL. And, in the past, you could say, well, there haven't been that many proven minority coaches, Leslie Frazier and all of them flamed out, the former Bears coach, Lovie Smith. But you have a guy in Eric Bieniemy that literally every single person who's played for him has now vouched for him and asked him to be hired.
He's so
And
amazing, that guy.
you're still hiring white dudes that have no qualifications. So I think that's a conversation that's needs to be happening, and I don't they
I
clearly
think the
it's
Lions missed the mark with this one.
yeah I would agree, and it's sad when you see teams make questionable coaching hires that are bad franchises, and it reminds you that you can't really change the ownership of the franchise, and that's why bad franchises stay bad.
Yeah. All right. Another head coaching hire that happened, I completely forgot about. The Philadelphia Eagles. They hired Nick Sirianni. I think that's how you pronounce his
Yeah, that's
name.
another guy I've never heard of, and I now have to look up his
He was
background.
the offensive coordinator for the Colts from 2018 to 2020.
Yeah, so I think I don't agree with what the Eagles are doing here. We talked about their dysfunction a few
They're
weeks ago.
dysfunctional. They hired someone from the Colts to see if they can get the same magic probably with Frank Wright for Carson Wentz, and I bet
Yeah,
that's not going to work.
that is 100. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's 100% why this hire was made. This hire
Yeah,
was made because the Colts are the Eagles, and the media and the talking heads feel that Carson Wentz was a lot better with Frank Reich, so they hired someone
they
who they
hire this
worked up
guy here.
right to get that sort of influence on Carson Wentz. And again, I think that's the whole reason he was hired. And other than that, it's like I don't know what else what other qualifications he has, what else he gives. I mean,
He
it
was
was
a quarterback coach for maybe for what is it from 2009 to 2015, and then he went to San Diego in 2016 to be a receivers coach, and then 2018 he's offensive coordinator for Frank Wright.
I mean, it's similar. Earlier this offseason, uh, the Auburn Tigers paid a huge buyout to get rid of Gus Malzahn, who was a championship-winning head coach, and for them, and they didn't do this, but there was talk that they were going to upgrade their defensive coordinator, which everyone was saying, why would you pay a huge buyout just to upgrade a lesser guy in the same cloth? This feels similar to that. You get rid of a
You get rid of your Super Bowl coach and Doug Peterson to bring in Frank Wright.
yes man
Point
for
two.
Carson Wentz. I mean, if you were going to do that, right? It really just feels like the franchise. This move was made to please Carson Wentz's ego, and I don't understand. This is another move. I mean, he could. I don't know anything about the guy. He could be a hidden gem, but I think I
We'll
think you
find
said.
out.
I
I mean,
mean,
like,
it's
there's not
pretty
much
clear. You
about
said it. He
him.
worked with Frank Reich. He
What, he
worked with
coached
Frank Reich.
Philip
They
Rivers
think
and
Frank
Jacoby
Reich
Brissett. That's
magic
it.
is the key to getting Wentz back to form. So they tried to get thing.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
it's like it was like the Sean McVay thing a few years ago, where people tried to find they couldn't get Sean McVay, so they looked for his little sibling, his brother's former roommate. That's sort of
I felt like you were
what
about
it
to
feels
do a
like here.
Spaceballs reference on me. If you've seen that movie.
That's what I was going for.
All
That's
right,
what I
just
was
making
going
sure.
for.
But with
Of
that
course,
though,
I've seen
but
it a million
so
times.
with this hire, we now have two teams left that don't have their head coaching jobs filled. We got the New York Jets, which could be interesting, and then we've got the Houston Texans, who are still left. So Eric Bieniemy could still go to either of those
The Jets
teams.
hired,
What's up?
the Jets hired Robert Sala. Remember?
Oh, they did. I'm sorry. So it's only the Texans. I missed Sala. So Robert Sala. So the only
I said
team left
the
is the
Jets.
Texans. You still there?
Yeah. And they still are in. Yeah, I think there's a delay. I think my feed's coming out a
Yeah, a little
lot
bit.
later on your end. But yeah, I think yeah, definitely a delay. Um, I think that it's still up in the air because the Watson situation is still up in the air, and they now have decided they want to pursue Bieniemy, which seems like an appeasement move for Watson, but it may be too little, too late. He seems to want out the door now.
Yeah,
So
he wants out, so it's huge. They also interviewed Josh McCown for head coaching.
right, which has continued to open up the conversation about minority head coaches, because for everyone loves Josh McCown, but the dude's never been a coach. So to elevate someone that quickly while against a guy like Eric Bieniemy, although to their credit they are interested in him as well. So
Yeah.
interesting there. Now, something that I also is worth mentioning, as you said, Matt Stafford and the Lions heading for divorce here.
Yeah, they're looking to trade him. I was just looking up something because I just noticed I didn't think Josh McCown retired from the NFL, but he actually did. So he is
He
actually out of
started,
the NFL.
the guy started a playoff game for an injured Carson Wentz 2 years ago.
I think that's
Um,
I think that's when he retired.
yeah, probably. But the Stafford news is interesting to me because
Yeah. So I was shocked. So they're definitely parting ways. So they're definitely doing they're flushing everyone out and they're doing they're
full
doing their
rebuild.
rebuild here.
It seemed like a mutual parting of ways. I think Stafford approached, from what I've read, Stafford approached them about a trade, just bringing it up in the offseason. They said to hold up on it and ultimately did decide to move on. Now, you and I talked about this earlier, and I hold still. I think I get rebuilding, but I think that's a step back for them. I think Stafford can
I
help
think
this.
getting rid of Stafford was a bad idea, but now he could go to the Patriots and actually win.
And you're looking at just a lot of unprecedented QB movement. I mean, we already last year saw Philip Rivers leave the Chargers and Eli Manning retire and Tom Brady go to Tampa. And now you're looking at Stafford leaving and Philip Rivers retiring and maybe Carson Wentz gets moved and Drew Brees probably retires and maybe Ben Roethlisberger retires and maybe Aaron Rodgers gets moved and who knows about Jimmy G. I mean, it seems
We're
like this
getting a
could be
huge reshuffling of the league right now.
we are. It is, and it seems like this could be it's a big transitional point, and this could be the biggest offseason for QB movement we've seen in a long time. And Tom Brady's holding on, but this old guard. I mean, we're already seeing the end of Drew Brees. We already seen Eli Manning and Rivers. Once Ben is not long for this world, we'll see how long Tom can hold on. But once those guys go, then it's a new phase for the league, and the league you and I grew up with will
It's
be gone.
over at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So
So we are now watching the new generation step in here.
absolutely, and luckily there are a lot of talented guys, starting with as we've said, Patrick Mahomes, who is going to be the face of the league for the next 10 years at least.
He is, and I really hope that this new quarterback group that's coming in, they join in the fun here. Like, I would love to see Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields versus Josh Allen, Baker,
Yeah,
Deshaun Watson, and all them. Like that, this is gonna be great.
yeah. Deshaun Watson, another guy, probably moving teams this offseason. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, like
I,
we're watching the change of the league right now.
I think that the quarterbacks coming into college are more talented than ever. I think teams do have to figure out how to surround these guys with talent because we've already seen the 2017 class with Rosen and Darnold and Haskins, and the 2018 class. We've seen those guys not have enough talent around them, and so hopefully, teams can figure out how to do this without giving up on QBs. We've already seen the Dolphins kind of try to,
The Dolphins, I think, are done with their two experiment if they can get Deshaun.
which is insane to me. I mean, I get getting Deshaun, sure, but Tua, we can talk about this the offseason, but I don't, is he perfect? No, but he's a rookie that didn't have an offseason and led your team to a bunch of wins and threw for more TDs than INTs. I don't know what else you want from him. So not enough patience, in my opinion, for QBs these days. But that's another conversation. But the Watson thing, just again to touch on quarterback movement here. I mean, I was thinking about this. Can you remember a situation similar to this where a guy on his second contract that's young and that's one of the best QBs in the league, willfully wants to leave? I mean, can you think of a parallel situation? I can't
No,
think
I
of
don't
a.
think anyone's done that. I think this is just unique now.
And what's crazy about it too is I didn't realize this, but because of the no trade clause, he kind of gets to pick where he wants. I mean,
He has the power, and I
there
think he
could be a
wants to
team that
go to the
wants him.
Jets. To be honest, from what I was
Yeah, I
reading.
think he's interested in the AFC. He does have the power, so a team could want him, and he could say no thanks. He could go the AFC East, which would be great because again that would be more karma where the Patriots' reign is kind of over here. Um, so a ton of interesting offseason stories to watch. But are there any other coaches we were forgetting, or were it just those two
No,
that
that
got
was
hired?
it. That is that's their two nominees at the moment, unless they do like some sort of big surprise. But I think that's gonna wrap up our news. Pro Bowls this weekend. We'll do the Super Bowl discussion next week, and we'll go over our entire playoff rundown. I think we'll have more fun next week. We have a lot to cover now. But with that, Mr. Cary, please tell us about your blog, sir.
Yes, sir. Check me out on my blog, footballck.wordpress.com, and also check me out at lafbnetwork.com in the UCLA Bruins section. Now, Sam? I know I asked you this. The Pro Bowl, are they just playing Madden? Is that
They are
what they're
playing. It's a
doing?
Pro Bowl celebration in Vegas. They are playing Madden. It's going to be on Disney XD, ABC, and ESPN.
Is it live?
Yeah, it's live.
So you get to see all the Madden glitches in their wonderful
Yeah, it's gonna be
full
Sunday
HD.
at like 3:30, I think.
Yeah, they stopped putting the Pro Bowl. I think they got to just kill the Pro Bowl
Pro
at this
Bowl's
point.
done.
And I was a fan of it like a decade ago when people were saying, oh, it's not serious enough, but teams were getting in like 60 to 50 shootouts. I'm like, oh, that
Yeah,
was
like
fun, but
when like the NFC was like putting up like 55, and then they were still
that
losing
was
like
fun.
60. Like
That was
it's
fun,
fun to
but
watch, but now like teams aren't. They're trying to spice it up. But like the highest scoring Pro Bowl was like what 2017 the other year. Who wants
well,
to
now
watch that?
they don't even play. They get touched and they call the play dead, which is again I'm fine with like not having like crazy hits and stuff. But if you're just gonna make it worse than touch football, like just
Yeah.
ban it.
Look,
If you're
look,
gonna
look.
make it
The best
a,
play in Pro Bowl history is when Sean Taylor fucking full on destroyed Brian Moorman. If you've seen that.
I haven't, but I'll have to look it up. Or you know what they could do? Give it to Nickelodeon, make it a fucking slime fest.
Yeah,
Sure,
I'd watch it more if it was on Nickelodeon.
I know they'll do something fun with it. So, but yeah, the 3:30 ESPN
No one's gonna
game with
watch.
yeah.
So with that though, we have now covered everything. Next week, Mr. Cary, if you're still with us, we are going to be covering every playoff team, give our Super Bowl preview, and our predictions. We're going to have a lot to talk about next week.
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I hope you guys do not watch the Pro Bowl because I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.